gods, or may become the seed of the two lower schools of Buddhism, or may cultivate the great school. But goodness is uncertain, it may have taken root or may not. Or if men serve the Buddhas, though they have not served them very long, yet, on account of going through special circumstances, they also may strike root and grow. This will only be if they regard the Buddhas in a special manner. Or if they also learn from the followers of the two lower schools, they also may grow. On account of following the example of others, they also may grow. Those progressing for these latter reasons are all uncertain. When they meet adverse circumstances, they fall back from the highest faith to the two lower ones. Next, what is the progress of perfect faith? Briefly speaking, it is threefold. First, it is upright, having right thoughts of the eternal. Second, it is profound, rejoicing to study everything that is good and to practice it. Third, it is greatly pitiful, anxious to deliver all living beings from their sorrow. Question 8. Formerly you said that all the universe was but one state and that the natures of the gods were not different from that of men. So how is it that it is not only by the study of the eternal and by practice of all kinds of goodness that one reaches that state?
Answer. Man's nature is like a great precious stone. It is bright and pure, but there is the dross of the quarry on it. If men think only of its precious nature, and do not use various means to cleanse it, it will never be pure. Thus is it with mankind. The nature of the eternal in them is absolute purity. But it is defiled with infinite dross. If men only think of the eternal, and do not use various means to improve their nature, they also will never get pure, because there is infinite dross pervading everything. The practice of all sorts of good is in order to purge away the dross. If men practice all sorts of good, they will naturally fall in with the eternal way. Briefly speaking, the means are of four kinds: cultivate the root of things, by looking on the true nature of all things as eternal, without beginning, independent of man's conception of things, and not permanent in temporary life, by looking on all things linked together by a never-failing law of deeds and their consequences, by nourishing a great pity and cultivating virtue joyfully, by seeking to save all men, not resting in the nirvana of the two lower schools, as that which does nothing. For the eternal archetype never rests. Cease from evil. It is by contrition and repentance that one is enabled to cease from all evil and prevent its increase. As one follows the eternal nature, he departs from all evil. Grow in goodness. It is by diligently honoring and supporting the three precious ones, praising them, rejoicing in their good deeds, and by seeking instructions of the enlightened. As there is love and respect for the holy character of the three precious ones, faith grows and one desires to get the highest truth.
Besides the influence of God, there is that of His law throughout the universe, and that of the priesthood, the teachers of this law, by which one is able to remove the hindrances to goodness and be firmly rooted in it, for one follows and obeys eternal law and leaves mad hindrances far behind. Seek the Eternal's wish. It is an ever-growing desire to save all living beings without exception, so that all may reach the supreme nirvana of the higher faith, where one follows and obeys the nature of the eternal forever. The eternal nature is vast and pervading all living beings without distinction of this, that, or the other, and is the final rest of all. As an intelligent saint thus progresses in religion, he begins to comprehend a little of the eternal state. As he comprehends the eternal, he discovers that the eternal has made 8 kinds of sacrifices for men. He descends from his heaven of ease. He becomes incarnate and mingles with less fortunate beings. He grows in the womb of obscurity. He becomes well known. He sacrifices all other interests, even his home, and becomes a priest devoted to the eternal. He knows true religion. He preaches the law of the eternal. He enters the true nirvana of perfect peace.
But this intelligent saint is not called the divine eternal embodiment. As in the innumerable ages of the past there still remain some deeds which he has not been able to free entirely from defilement, so there are sufferings corresponding to them in his circumstances, but he is not bound by these imperfections any longer. Since he is free by the power of the great eternal to save men, the Sutra says if we speak of the Bodhisattva going down to some evil place he is not really degraded thereby. It is only in the beginning that it appears so, and therefore he descends to strengthen some who are hesitating in fear. Moreover, the saint from the beginning of his perfect faith is far from having any weakness, and never has any fear of falling back to the state of the two lower schools. Even if he hears that nirvana cannot be obtained till after patient toil through troubles lasting for immeasurable and endless kalpas of longest durations, still he faints not, as by faith he knows that behind all existence there is naturally the supreme nirvana.
2. Growth in intelligent practice. One must note that there must be growth. When the bodhisattvas, who from the first follow the correct faith, are about to complete the first term of long kalpas, they then fully comprehend the eternal. It is in a state of complete independence of all form, and they practice those 5 divine exercises by means of which they pass into the supreme nirvana. As they learn that the eternal has no selfishness, they then follow obediently the practice of all kinds of divine charity. As they learn that the eternal is undefiled, free from the sins arising from the longings of the 5 senses, they obediently practice divine perseverance. As they learn that the eternal is all-enduring, they obediently practice divine endurance. As they learn that the eternal is ever clear, without confusion, they obediently practice divine unchangeableness. As they learn that the eternal is all intelligence, free from ignorance, they obediently practice divine wisdom or judgments. 3. Growth in attainments. This covers the ground from the beginning of the holy pure state up to the highest attainments of sainthood. What attainments are these? They are those of the eternal. According to the perception of the senses, this would be called the objective world, but in our present attainment there is nothing outward but the eternal wisdom which is called the divine body. These bodhisattvas in an instant are able to reach all space throughout all the universe, adoring all the enlightened gods, and requesting them to explain the eternal law for the sole purpose of teaching and benefiting all living beings, so as to get the spirit of the law and not mere fine words. These saints sometimes hurry over various stages of progress so as to get right enlightenment speedily in order to help the weak. Sometimes, after a term of countless long kalpas, they may become Buddhas in order to encourage the weary ones, and thus show by countless ways how to attain Buddhahood. In reality, as the root of the nature of the seed of sainthood is the same, the growth is the same and the attainment is the same, namely, through the eternal way. There is no such thing as omitting any term, as all the saints must go through the 3 terms, though they follow different ways with different men. As men's nature, desires, and dispositions are different, the saints use different methods for their salvation.
Here the growth of this state of sainthood is threefold and is very necessary. The first is that of the true soul, which in no way differs from the eternal. The second is that of the different means employed to meet the needs of all beings. The third is that of his conceptions of things, where still linger a few false notions disturbing him. Then comes the holy perfection in all virtues at the head of the world of form, showing themselves as the greatest of mortals. In a moment they correspond exactly to the eternal wisdom, and all ignorance being entirely gone, this correspondence is called the root seed of all wisdom. These saints naturally possess powers beyond all thought, able to manifest themselves throughout all points of space for the good of all beings. Question 9. As space is infinite, worlds are infinite. As worlds are infinite, living beings are infinite. As living beings are infinite, the differences of thought in them are infinite, and in such a state their respective magnitudes cannot be